Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little piece of leather and a pen loop. That is this little guy, the Popov Leather Pocket Armor Leather Knife and Pen Slip. So first off though, full disclosure, this was provided to me for free from Popov Leather. They sent it along. I told them as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk. They still sent it along, but we have to assume this is the very best quality controlled one of these ever, and I'm doing my best not to let that affect my review. But nevertheless, review sample freebie, so take that for what it's worth. Next thing, let's do some size measurement right quick here. Let's go ahead and do it in millimeters, because you know what, screw it, I'm done with the imperial system. 105 millimeters right here. On this little front here, we've got 56.0 millimeters, why not? And then the thickness on this guy, when it's kind of pinched shut, I suppose, comes in at 2.7 millimeters, all told. Maybe a little bit wider in the middle there, maybe not, who knows? But either way, that's the rough size of it. And then, of course, size comparison, Spyderco Delica. So you can see here, it's not a huge little piece of item here. I wonder if the Delica fits inside it. Yeah, I guess it does. Nice. All right. Well, there you go. Size comparison, Spyderco Delica. So, there's that. Next thing, a quick note. Popov Leather, who the heck are these folks? Well, they were actually a small group of people up there in the Canada, I believe very, very close to Washington State in the U.S. here. Where they're in the part of Canada that's close to Washington State. But anyways, they're doing their work up there, and there you go. They seem to be a small family-ish sort of operation. And then finally, this is going to be a quick review, because this is quite literally two pieces of leather sewn together with a piece of elastic. Maybe doesn't merit the whole affair. But let's go ahead and talk about what's good about this guy, what's not so good, and then go into a final conclusion here. I mean, to start with, I think the idea of it is very nice. I mean, pocket slips, these are not the first people to make a pocket slip. That is 100% true. But the idea here is that you take a knife that maybe doesn't have a pocket clip, something like this little guy, a JE-made slip joint, and then you can combine that with a pen, for instance, like this little guy, Machine Era Classic, and then just throw this whole thing in your pocket. The nice part about this is that, A, your clipless knife is very easy to carry. You can throw this in the pocket without worries that it could come open, and also without worries that things like your keys or other things are going to be affected by it. You're not going to, for instance, I don't know, hit your phone with your knife or something like that. It can be a very nice thing, and it fits a variety of knives, too. Here it is with a GEC Wall Street pattern, 99. Here it is with my Chris Reeve knives, Nandi, and so you can see, even with the clip-on, this fits just fine. And then here it is with the, my other favorite, well, traditional style clipless knife, the SK Blades Goodfella right here. And so you can see here, it fits just beautifully. However, it is not quite up to the task of a $110, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. But anyways, I like very much this idea. I like having this kind of a pocket slip, because it not only does it help to keep things oriented in the pocket. If you just drop this whole affair into your pocket here, your knife and your pen are going to be in a constant position. It's not going to be like rotating around, diving underneath your keys, etc. That can be a very nice thing, and it really doesn't add that much bulk relative to carrying these two things independently. And honestly, having one of these guys, and particularly this guy, or one of them with a pen slot, makes it a lot more appealing to me, frankly, to carry a clipless knife, because that way two pieces of gear are right next to each other. That can be very nice. This thing is also sold, by the way, in two sizes. This is the normal size, but they also make an XL size, so you can keep that in mind if you're looking for something particularly huge. Next thing, price on this guy is fine. It's $34. Now, look, it's hand-stitched, it's by a small business. I can't really argue with that, and, you know, looking around at places like Etsy and otherwise, it's kind of in the sweet spot. Sure, you can get a very cheap pocket slip for less money, 100%, but you know what? I don't find the price to be particularly abhorrent, especially given the fact that it is hand-stitched. And by the way, that is a nice thing, because hand-stitching not only adds strength and durability to the whole process, but the nature of hand-stitching means that if one of these guys pops, for instance, if one of these stitches breaks, it will strengthen I'm sorry, it will not strengthen it, but it won't, like, unravel. The whole thing won't come apart, as opposed to interlocking machine stitches. It's kind of an interesting little detail there, and honestly, the thing is finished pretty well overall. You get some edge burnishing, some sanding, that kind of thing. No real complaints with that, particularly. And so the price to me seems fine, especially given that this is hand-stitched by a small business. Next thing to highlight here is that having the pen involved here actually does help to orient it a little bit. And you know what? I think that can be nice. It keeps it together in the pocket, and it keeps your pen right where you need to. And by the way, it takes a variety of pens. Here it is with a Machine Era Classic, which is probably my favorite everyday carry pen at this point in time. certainly in that small, compact pocket size, but here it is with a Kaweco Lilliput here. You can see, oh, fits just beautifully. This is a Vision Metal LP5, which takes maybe a little bit more doing to get in there because it doesn't have like a rounded tip, but once you get it in there, absolutely works beautifully. And a Fisher Space Pen, of course, is going to be absolutely good to go. But even, you know, it can expand out. One of the nice parts about having it be a stretchy sort of thing is it can expand out and even fit like a Sharpie or something like that if that was your particular approach there. So that is absolutely nice. And so, to me at least, all of that is the good, is that it fits a variety of pens, including some absolute favorites of mine. It has it's hand-stitched, which actually not only looks pretty good, but adds to a little bit of strength, and especially these nice little double stitches there, that's good to go. Having the pen with the knife there helps to orient them both, keep them solid, and the slip idea is pretty nice. The price on this guy feels pretty fine, and there are 2 sizes offered, which gives you an opportunity if you really, really, really want to throw you $110 in a pocket slip. I don't know if the full size should fit the $110. They'll probably let me know in the comments. But anyway, so there you go. On the bad side, one thing I'll comment on is that the leather on this particular guy it's got sort of a polishing to it. It's a little bit glossier. It's like a high gloss sort of finish. And unfortunately, what that means is that as it's sitting in your pocket, and this guy has actually gotten a fair amount of use, but you can see it scuffs up very readily. And it scuffs up much more so than sort of a conventional leather crafty sort of thing. And, you know, you notice that, and particularly I've just recently re-oiled this guy, so that darkens that up a little bit, but you can definitely see that in the gloss leather, where you might not in something that's a little bit more kind of conventional leather, that's a little less glossy. So there you go. Next thing, the leather on this guy is a little bit on the thin side. It's not a big deal, and there's something to be said for keeping this thin, and it hasn't, you know, fallen apart or anything like that, but it's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind. Next thing, the elastic webbing on this guy. Now look, I think it's a good idea, and particularly the fact that it can adjust to many sizes is definitely advantage over something, for instance, that has a full leather slot here for the pen. But the thing is, the elastic is not necessarily going to survive you. It is, well, any time that you've got these kinds of elastics, maybe the modern ones are much better, but I'm so used to failing elastic in products in my life that I kind of consider this to be a little bit temporary. At the price, you know what, I'm not so freaking out about it, but I think there's something that's a little bit less than ideal about having anything that relies on elastic as something you're planning to have a long-term part of your everyday life. It'll work fine. And like I said, by the time that the elastic dies, the whole thing may be a little worse for the wear anyways, but still, that's not great. Another thing to highlight is that the elastic part of this is actually relatively short, relative to the rest of the thing, and I get it, you know, it kind of does make sense in terms of the amount of, you know, proportions and things, but at the same time, having that does have a tendency, particularly, you know, here with a longer pen like this, you have a tendency towards torsion, where you can very easily end up doing something like this that's a little bit harder if the entire thing is kind of stitched in there. Not a big deal, but it's certainly a deal. And then finally, you know, the elastic honestly is a little less classy. I mean, it works fine. It does the trick, and no one's going to look, oh my God, look at the elastic on his pen slip. I am not doing business with this jackass. Well, at least I don't expect so. But either way, it takes it from feeling like something that is pretty damn luxurious to something that is pretty practical, but a little less so. And so, yeah, to me at least that's what's bad, is that the elastic is a little less classy. It's a little short relative to the whole thing, leading to the possibility of pen torsion as definitely a thing. The elastic webbing may be a point of eventual failure when the material itself wears out a little bit. The leather on this guy is a little bit thin, and the polished leather definitely shows scratches a little bit more readily than some other more natural versions of leather. So there you go. Well, more natural, that's not exactly what I want to say, but a more raw finish tends to hide that wear a little bit more. Final conclusions. Look, I like the idea of these slips very much. Once I had one, and especially with the pen in there, which kind of puts 2 useful tools in one place in your pocket all at once, that's just a beautiful thing. And the fact that it keeps them oriented well and keeps them relatively safe and undamaged, well, I like that a lot, and honestly, this particular model is good to go. It works just fine. It works well even, and the price on it is quite reasonable. There's no real complaining about this guy, and compared to especially, you know, sometimes you order a slip joint style knife, they'll send you a slip with it, but it tends to be like the crappiest leather anyone could possibly find, sewed together with the crappiest machine stitching anyone could possibly find. It's just not a beautiful thing. And so, you know, I think that this actually does work pretty well, and, you know, for the price, price, no real complaints. Well, okay, I can still complain, but still, I think it's pretty reasonable there. For me personally, I would prefer a different leather finish, and I think I'd rather have something other than the elastic. That's why I've been carrying this little guy, which is, I'll do a full review of this. This is actually, I had this made by a guy named K&H Leather. But anyways, nevertheless, I think I like having the full there, but you do sacrifice, for instance, the flexibility to be able to put a Shabazz in here by going to full leather, etc. And, you know, it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be a whole different thing. But honestly, this is pretty solid. It works pretty well. And if you're looking for something like this, I think it may just be Amore. Because it's pocket armor. Amore? No. The moon hits your eye. Big pizza pie. That's pocket armor. No? Okay. Sorry, had to try and slip in a pun. Okay, hope this has been interesting to you. Pop off on over to their store to check out more and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.